everyone. My name is Bill Condren. I'm the chair of the board here at Nativity School, and it's my honor to welcome you all to the celebration of life for Bill Haylon. I've been on the board for the last 10 years, and for that entire decade, I've been known as the other Bill at the school, which is appropriate considering Bill Haylon's gifts and what he's done for this school. Like so many of you, I was first introduced to Nativity by Bill. About a decade ago, I cold called Bill out of the blue to check a reference on somebody I was looking to hire that previously worked for Bill. And within 5 minutes, he found out I grew up in Worcester, was born and raised here, and immediately started to talk to me about Nativity School. And little did I know then that that's what Bill always did. And that was the magic of Bill. And he always spoke of this magical place. And Bill being Bill, about a few weeks later, I was at a fundraiser in Wellesley, and a few weeks after that, I was at Nativity to say hello to the boys in the morning, and a few months after that, I joined the board. And for the last 10 years, it's really been my honor to work alongside Bill and with Bill, and really to get a master class from Bill on what it means to really love something and be passionate about it and give your all to it. And all of us know that's what Bill did every day. But certainly here at Nativity and for this school, and it's not hyperbole to say that this school wouldn't be here today without Bill and his love and passion and support and unyielding pushing and confidence and just total creativity and support for what Nativity is and his total passion for it that he gave every day. So it really is our honor to be here today to celebrate him in this place that is really dedicated to him in so many ways. So welcome. We're glad to have you all here with us. It is my honor to welcome next Bill's daughter, Sarah, to share some thoughts with us. So Sarah, please.
Well, firstly, thank you all for coming, of course. So I'm going to try and make it through this, but my brother Todd has recently dubbed me the CEO or Chief Emotional Officer of our family, so I make no promises. Well, there are a million ways to describe my dad. Affable, ambitious, creative, stubborn even. His selflessness and generosity were at the core of who he was throughout my entire life. In both the small moments and big, his desire to be a champion of all and put others' happiness before his own continually shone through. Speaking of smaller moments, both my mom and I shared the same habit of thinking whatever my dad ordered to eat looked far more desirable than what we got. It could be the last hot pastrami sub at Linden Deli on a Tuesday. If you know, you know. And he would let me have half of the sandwich if I asked, because even though he had been looking forward to that sandwich all week, he was willing to sacrifice it just to provide me with a few moments of happiness. One time in elementary school, my brother Chase and I were in New York, and my dad was there too. I know, shocking, considering he's barely returned to New York since claiming he, quote, made Brooklyn cool when he lived there post-college due to the cheap rent it offered. To be honest, I have no idea why we were there or the details of the trip, but the one moment that still permeates my brain is when Chase, my dad, and I were in a cab together. I saw my dad carefully leafing through his wallet, and he pulled out a $50 bill. The ride was short and maybe cost $10. My dad handed the guy $50 and said, "Keep the change." The cab driver excitedly kept saying, "Are you sure? Are you sure?" My dad said, "Yep," and we left the cab. Chase and I turned to my dad wide-eyed and said, "You know you gave the driver $50, right?" My dad's eyes twinkled and he said, "No, I didn't." Did I really? There was no way he didn't know, just deciding to make someone's day and not wanting any accolades in return. In high school, my dad was the biggest supporter of my field hockey career by far. He knew absolutely nothing about the sport, despite his efforts to try and learn, but would coach me from the sidelines with an enormous amount of passion and zeal. One playoff game my senior year, we ended up having to play in the snow. It started off as a cold, barely there flurry, but was really coming down hard by the end. That morning, my dad had told me he was coming, but at the end of the game, I scoured the sidelines and I didn't see him amongst the sparse crew of spectators. I was disappointed, but I understood. I quickly gathered my belongings and started jogging across the parking lot. Suddenly, I hear a loud honk. I turn to look, and there's my dad in his car waiting for me. I hopped in the car and I said, "I thought you didn't come." He replied, "Of course I came. I watched the whole game. You did great, kid. I headed to the car only a few minutes early to warm it up for you." He then held my hands and rubbed them between his until I could finally bend my fingers. I can't even remember if we won or lost the game or who we were playing, but I remember my dad sitting in the freezing cold snow just because he wanted to be there for me and cheer me on doing something I love. After college, I was having a few friends over at our house. My dad, of course, asked them one of his favorite questions. No, it wasn't, "So if you're going to start a company today, what would it be?" Or, "How's your love life?" Two of his other common queries. It was, "So what do you want to do with your life?" One of my friends expressed he was in between 2 job offers, and my dad immediately dove into the topic with him. My friends and I proceeded to go outside and enjoy the summer day, and unbeknownst to us, my dad had cleared his day and instead did a full deep dive Googling the 2 companies. We all came in for dinner and my dad said, "Okay, I figured it all out for you." Unfortunately, a few weeks later, my friend revealed he went with a company my dad did not recommend. And as we all know, my dad much prefers it when people take his advice. But nonetheless, my dad's immediate, thorough, and genuine response when being asked for help is something that likely most people in this room have experienced. Oh, and I would be remiss if I didn't add, my friend told my dad about 6 months later after working a few of his favorite words, "I made the wrong choice. You were right." Lastly, I was recently chatting with my dad about how impressive his work with Nativity was. Instead of saying thank you or "I know, it's great," my dad turned to me and said, "You know what? Every single day I think to myself, am I doing enough? It always feels like I could be doing more." The hardest part of coping with the loss of my dad is reconciling how a person who has given so much to this world and who had so much left to give can be physically erased in an instant. I keep trying to remind myself that even though his body is no longer here, his spirit is, and you all being here is a testament to that. I think we can all learn how to be selfless from Hales and give our friend, sibling, parent, whoever, the last bite of our favorite proverbial Linden Deli sandwich, even though we are hungry ourselves, just because it would make them happy. That's it.
That was really terrific, and the sun is absolutely blinding right now. So, about 10 days ago, I sat down, I said, I really want to write something really good for this day. And then this past Monday, Polly called me, and she said, "You know, Chick, it can't be more than 5 minutes." I said, "Polly, that's the introduction." An hour later, I got a phone call. She said, "The family has discussed it, and you can have 8 to 10 minutes." So we'll see how this goes. So my name is Chick Weiss. I've been with Nativity School from the very start, when it was just an idea, a dream. And knowing Bill as I did, the last thing he would want me to talk about is what? Bill Haylon. Rather, he'd want me to talk about Nativity. So today I will talk about this school, give some updates and focus on Bill's critical role in its success. This is a place where miracles happen every single day. Nativity is an accredited, independent Jesuit middle school that provides a quality, all scholarship, meaning free, education to underserved boys of all faiths. Nativity education inspires self-discovery, responsibility, spiritual growth, and a lifelong dedication to learning. Nativity makes a 12-year commitment to these boys, sticking with them not only through middle school, but high school and college, and then often helping them become productive in their working lives. I have some really great news to tell you today. I wish I could tell Bill. High school acceptance letters just came out for our 15th, 8th graders, and the results are really something. 2 boys will go to Bancroft School, 2 to Worcester Academy, 9 to St. John's, 1 to Worcester's North High, and 1 to the highly competitive Worcester Technical High School. All those going to private high schools will receive financial aid. But there's more great news. The acceptances to colleges and universities of our 15 Nativity graduates who are now seniors in high school. Let me list these schools. This is quite something. Assumption University, Boston College, Boston University ×2, Bridgewater State, Holy Cross ×4, Georgetown, George Washington, Northeastern, Tufts, and UMass Dartmouth. I hope you think that's a great mistake. Bill would beam over our boys' achievements, but being Bill, he would also be eager to tell you about the next big development at Nativity, the development that he was spearheading. As of summer of 2024, next summer, we will open the school to girls. And the results for girls will be every bit as great as the result for boys. I mentioned that our boys have been accepted to great high schools and colleges with financial aid. Most often, however, this aid does not cover the full cost of attendance. While our families can't bridge the gap, Nativity set aside operating funds to help. But Bill knew that the boys' financial needs were beyond our budget, so he talked to his friend Joe Flaherty, right here, to consider establishing a fund in honor of Joe's late wife, Nancy. Thanks to many donations, Nancy's fund has grown significantly. And it bridges the financial aid gap for our boys in high school. And recently, anonymous donors have endowed a fund to bridge the financial aid gap for our graduates who are in college. So how did Bill get connected to Nativity? I first heard about Bill through his sister-in-law, my friend, Trish Haylon, who works at Holy Cross, where I had been professor and administrator for 41 years. She said that Bill had an interest in starting a school like Nativity in the Williamstown area. I'm sure you all know he went to Williams College. I heard a lot about that. but it didn't take root there. Trish told Bill about Nativity, and Bill wanted to learn more about it. My fellow trustee, Mike Sosis, and I joined Bill for lunch. Bill asked 1,000,000 tough questions, and apparently he liked our answer and said he would like to become involved. At that lunch, he wrote a check that had more zeros to the left of the decimal than the school had ever seen. And then Bill said he'd like to buy us lunch. But Mike said, "Bill, I think Chick can buy us lunch." And I did. Bill's impact was immediate. To increase the range of talent among our trustees, he recruited high-powered friends from the worlds of business, media, and finance. I count about a dozen trustees who joined our board at Bill's request. To spread the word about this school beyond Worcester, he encouraged his Wellesley friends to host house parties at which friends and neighbors could meet our boys, our staff, our trustees. These parties were just great fun with great results. Now, you know, Nativity is a Jesuit school, and to be a Jesuit school means that we educate men and women for and with others. And we have a special obligation to the poor and to those who are less powerful. While Bill did not attend a Jesuit institution, and he was certainly not a Jesuit priest, am I correct, Polly? Bill fully appreciated those values. Let me give you just one example of his commitment of being for and with others while wanting nothing in return. The example's right here in this room. When we purchased this building, this gym needed serious work, and Bill took charge of the renovations. He wanted to improve this space while honoring a very important person in his life, his coach and friend from Williams College, Coach Briggs, right here. Not only did Bill contribute to the renovation, but many of you did as well. There's a plaque on the door back where you entered to Briggs Gymnasium that lists the 17 individuals and families that helped make this facility what it is today. Take a look at the plaque when you can during reception. But having a well-equipped and beautiful gym was not enough for Bill. He said this gym should offer more than athletics. It should inspire all of those who enter. During the reception, look at the stories that these walls tell. To your left, over here, are the pennants of the colleges and universities where our boys attend or have attended. And as of today, we have some new ones to add. In front of you, from left to right, are the 4 pillars that form the very foundation of this school: scholarship, service, strength, and character. I think you can see Bill in each of those pillars. Also on the walls in front of you and to your right are the colorful banners designed by each 8th grade graduating class. The 4 pillars of the banners were sewn by the boys' mothers and grandmothers. And on the wall behind you are some of the boys' athletic achievements. During the past months, how many times have I heard, what would Bill say? What would Bill do? We need Bill's ideas. So I asked my fellow trustees and those past and present heads of school to say something about Bill. In looking over their responses, over and over, these words were said: passionate, humble, brilliant, generous, thoughtful, caring, friendly, innovative, helpful. And there were many more: entrepreneurial, persistent, hardworking, indomitable, a bridge builder, and it went on and on and on. And here are some comments from my fellow trustees. Bill enthusiastically shared his generous spirit, his wit, his business acumen, his forward and creative thinking, his zeal for building partnerships to support Nativity students and graduates. Bill was quick to question, to address challenges strategically, and to commend and to encourage. He was like Bruce Springsteen once said: enthusiastic, energetic, fully engaging, the boss. He would have been a great teacher. I learned so much from Bill. He was patient, clear, and pushed me to grow in my position faster and farther than I thought I could. Bill was an incredible mentor whose kindness, humility, brilliance, and commitment to driving impactful results helped Nativity and me grow stronger and reach new heights. We know how generous he was of his time and resources with Nativity, and this was also true in other areas of his life. I never met anyone like Bill, who could create opportunities and have a vision to make things happen. Bill was one of those rare people who, once he met you, you became a friend, and he stayed present in your life. He truly valued friendship, and you knew he cared about you. He had an uncanny ability to believe in people long before they believed in themselves. Most important to me, Chick, Bill was my friend for nearly 20 years. In all that time, and I really mean this, in all that time, never once did he say a bad word about another. I wish I could say the same about myself. We understood and cared for each other, and we laughed a lot. I was quite ill a few years ago, and without fail, every week I would answer my phone, and in the loudest voice he could muster, he'd say, "Hello, Charles." He always called me Charles, and I said, "Hey, it's Mr. Bill." He called to encourage me, to pump me up, to distract me from my illness, to make me laugh, and it really helped. After his death, I told my fellow trustees about Bill's calls, and what I discovered should not have been a surprise, for I was not alone in getting these calls. So many colleagues said Bill called regularly to see how I was doing, how my wife or husband was doing, how our grandkids were doing, our kids, or just to check in. That was Bill. In closing, let me say clearly that Bill Haylon was indeed a very good man, a man who improved the lives of so many, a man, as the Jesuits would say, was for and with others, giving selflessly and seeking nothing in return. I miss Bill. We all do. Thank you.
So, Chick, Polly didn't give me a time limit. I think I'll be in under the 5 minutes. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Bill's little sister. Little sister by a lot, actually. My parents had 5 kids in 7 years, and then I came along 10 years later. Needless to say, it made for an unusual childhood. I had 5 doting older siblings, but no one doted more than Bill. I have to say, with apologies to Mike and Tim and Rick, that when I was little, he was most definitely my favorite. He had this incredible way of making me feel special, like I was the center of his universe. We listened to songs. Harry Chapin's 30,000 Pounds of Bananas comes to mind. He made up games for me. He took me to movies and then made up games related to the movies, things like a pillow fight version of the epic final bout in the original Karate Kid. He took me to see Les Mis, but not before I read the book, all 1,264 pages. After his spring break baseball training trips to Florida, he would give me blow-by-blows of every single Disney World attraction. He always said the Tiki Birds were his favorite. For the record, I've never met another soul who would say their favorite attraction at Disney World was the Tiki Birds. To be honest, it probably wasn't his favorite either, but he loved giving the not-so-straight story, especially if it would make you smile. Bill even brought me to my first college bar. I was 8. My weekends spent with him at Williams College were some of the happiest of my childhood. As an RA, Bill would organize the freshmen on his hall to attend pajama parties in his room. He'd take me to the dining hall for Captain Crunch, and then to class, where, much to his dismay, I would crunch my way through his lectures. He'd take me out to the log, where we would eat pizza and mingle with his legions of friends. For those couple of days each quarter or each semester, or however often it was, I was his special sidekick, and it was magnificent. When Bill graduated Williams, our special weekends followed him to the Big Apple. We saw more movies. I remember seeing the cult classic A Christmas Story, and Bill thinking it was the stupidest movie he had ever seen. But needless to say, "You'll shoot your eye out" became a years-long refrain. He always loved a good refrain. He loved a good nickname, too. Moo Moo, Pokey, Tater Todd, Rah Rah, Wee Willie Cavilly. People in Bill's life rarely went by their given name. I think it was one of the many ways that he showed love. After New York, there were weekends at Trinity Pauling School, where he did a 1-year stint as a high school English teacher. A bucket list experience for him. Not on the bucket list was coaching a soon-to-be Boston Red Sox All-Star, but he got to do that too. Mo Vaughn's post-grad year at Trinity Pauling just happened to coincide. And then Bill moved to Boston and married Polly, and I bet you think I'm gonna say that our special weekends stopped. But in fact, they didn't, they just got longer. I spent 6 of my high school and college summers living with Bill and Polly in Wellesley. Thank you, Polly. I helped out with little Gil and then little Todd, and Bill gave me my very first taste of the startup life. I'm proud to say that I was the very first employee of his very first entrepreneurial venture, Before You Move, Inc. That first summer at Before You Move was, well, let's call it an experience. For any of you who have ever worked for Bill Haylon, or even with Bill Haylon, you will not be surprised when I tell you that he quickly lost the mantle of favorite brother. He was tough. He worked hard, really hard, and he expected nothing less of everyone around him, even his little sister, who was not as adept at cold calling as he might have hoped. But he believed I could do it, and he pushed me to do it. And it's one of many skills I learned from him that has served me to this day, even though I still hate it. I have friends who have worked for Bill over the years, some of them even in this very building. One of those friends said of Bill after learning of his passing, "If we are lucky, our lives are blessed by people who challenge us, support us, and believe in us, even when we may doubt ourselves. How lucky I am that my path crossed with Bill's." The thing that I have come to realize about my brother over the years, and even more over the past few months, is that it wasn't just me that he made feel special. I'd argue that making people feel special should be counted among his many extraordinary gifts, perhaps one of the most consequential. And it wasn't just the usual suspects, his beloved wife, his 4 amazing kids, and 4 even more amazing grandkids, his baby sister. It was the friend from Aiken Middle School in West Hartford that he reconnected with over Zoom during COVID. It was the recent graduate of Nativity School, or the kid who just walked through these doors for the very first time. It was each person he challenged in the workplace. It was our long list of cousins, each of whom he recognized in an ongoing birthday email chain. It was the equipment manager of his college baseball team, whom he called every year at Christmas until his death in 2007. Over the past year or so, I spent a lot of time on the phone with Bill as we worked on a couple of projects together, and I'm so grateful for that time. A call with Bill was almost never a quick one. We'd start out on topic, and the conversation would inevitably wind its way in 10 different directions. Kids, family, politics, business ideas, solving the world's problems. 75 minutes later, we'd wonder why we were still on the phone. We talked so often last summer that it became a running joke. "You again?" We joked about that, but the reality is, every single time I called, he'd pick up the phone, and I could literally hear his face light up. "Moo-moo," he would exclaim. And at that moment, I would know once again that I was special.
The long way around. All right, so first I want to thank everyone for gathering here today to celebrate Bill's legacy and to Bill's family for allowing me to speak. I first met Bill when I interviewed as an intern at his company, Leaders for Today, in 2017. And since then, we always stayed in touch, often checking up on each other and sharing key milestones. But Bill was very unique because he had a way of communicating a lot while saying very little. The role Bill played in my life evolved over time, from boss to mentor and then friend. But he was much more than this. Bill was a quiet hero to me, not only because of the opportunities and advice he offered, but because of the hard work he put into projects like his books and Nativity and making that a possibility. I truly believe that everyone we meet throughout our lifetime serves a purpose. And in spirit of Ernest Hemingway, every man has 2 deaths: the moment they're buried and the last time someone says their name. The silent hero that Bill is to me can never be forgotten. He saw something in me that I, at times, never noticed in myself. And the motivation to make him proud and live up to his trust in something, and live up to his trust in me, is something that I will hold dearly throughout my own life journey. I will miss the random Bill emails and catching up, but I know that his legacy will live throughout the one thing we both share a connection through, and that's Nativity. Thank you.
So as I was walking up here, my wife Margaret reminded me that I'm not a stand-up comedian and this really shouldn't go much over 5 minutes. Now, unfortunately for you guys, bad jokes and long-winded monologues were two of my dad's favorite things, so buckle up. Joking aside, how much would he have loved this? All of our favorite people in one of his favorite places, so thank you to everybody for coming. It means a ton to us, and thank you to Nativity for putting this on. Since my dad's passing, I've been thinking a lot about his legacy, and I was thinking about all the amazing, big things he's been a key part of. Nativity, of course, his business endeavors, the vast network of friends that he's amassed and made a difference in their lives. But for me, what I keep coming back to is not these big things. It's these smaller memories and moments that have added up and become a part of my everyday life, whether I like it or not. And moments that have added up to make me a better person and, most importantly, a better dad. When I first realized this was when I was teaching my 4-year-old Charlotte about a week ago to ride a bike, and I had no idea what I was doing. So as I was panting alongside her, I was thinking back to my dad teaching us to ride a bike. After a very cautious period with me of learning in the grass in our backyard, which I've used with Charlotte now, though I've upgraded to a baseball field, which I think he'd appreciate, we decided I was ready to go on the street. Now, of course, promptly after letting me go on the street and I was going, he got distracted by an Ingersoll Road friend and was chatting, and I crashed into a fence. Clearly, he learned from his mistakes. With Sarah, she spent, 2 months, 3 months in the backyard in the grass, to the point where Chase just got sick of watching and taught himself to ride a bike. There's, of course, the legendary curmudgeonly Mr. Gruff. For those of you who don't know, Mr. Gruff was a central character in an ever-evolving bedtime story my dad would tell us. It's based loosely on somebody from his childhood, but really went off the rails and involved black jello and all kinds of things. But he became a larger-than-life character in our lives, and to the point where a framed drawing he did of Mr. Gruff is now in our playroom in my house. Try my best to recreate the stories, but you can appreciate it's difficult to compete with a 3-time published author. Reminder: his books are available for sale. Another thing, which Meryl had mentioned I found myself doing, which bugged me as a kid and has started to bug my kids, which is pretty entertaining, is the bad nicknames for everybody in their lives. I think we have a Sir Winkerbean, a Dots, a Tippy, and of course a Moo Moo in attendance tonight. I think they get along well with Charlotte's friends Biscuit and Dune Squad. And finally, well, it hasn't happened yet. I've already spent a lot of time on my offensive and defensive schemes for when my girls start playing CYO basketball. So you better believe that the high stack and motion offense will be run in Wellesley CYO for many years to come. I know it's very cliche, but I would give just about anything for one more of those moments with my dad. But I also know I have this library full of amazing memories that will stay with me and continue to help me as I raise my girls, potentially less so as they become teenagers. But for the time being, I'm going to keep telling Mr. Gruff stories, keep coming up with bad nicknames, looking at you, Pollywog, and adding CYO championships to the Haylon family mantle. And I'll deal with the teenage years when they arrive, and likely manage with about as much finesse as my dad. Maybe Auntie Ra can give me a few pointers on what I need to do. But full circle, one of those big legacies is Nativity. This school meant a lot to him. It means a lot to us. You've heard all about what an amazing place this is, so I'm not going to harp on that. And I know just about everybody here has contributed in one way or another over the last 15 or 20 years. And we truly appreciate that. But in true Bill Haylon fashion, we're going to ask one more time to help further legacy and support the ongoing success of students here and help push that girls' school over the hump and make sure those girls are set up to succeed. So we've created a Bill Haylon Scholarship Fund to support the ongoing success of boys and now girls at this school. So we truly appreciate whatever anyone can give and all your support throughout the years already. So now, enough with the speeches. I think everyone should make their way to the bar, and we have the Nativity School Band. I know, Mom, don't worry. The Nativity School Band who's going to play a Hale's favorite, September by Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Rendell Perez. This is my band called The Saunders, and I'm in the 8th career class.
Jeremy from the 5th grade career class.
I'm Jeremiah from the 8th grade L career class.
And I'm also from the A career class.
My name is Nicholas Garcia Ramirez. I am also part of the 8th grade A career class. As he just said, we will be playing September by Earth, Wind, and Fire in dedication of Mr. Haylon. So thank you for being here.
You remember the 21st night of September? Love was changing the minds of pretenders while chasing the clouds away. Our hearts were ringing in the key that our souls were singing as we danced in the night. Remember how the stars stole the night away. My thoughts are with you, holding hands with your heart to see you. Only blue talking love, remember how we knew love was here to stay. Now December found the love that we shared in September. Only blue talking love, remember the true love that we shared today. I'm dancing in September.
job. Thank you guys for doing that.